Okay, so we've got our fertilized egg cell, or zygote, and it's starting to divide. And as we know, we get the hollow ball, the blastula, characteristic of all animals. And then in turn, everything more advanced than a sponge has that folding in of gastrulation. Okay. And for triploblasts, after gastrulation, we get cells moving into the middle. Gives us three distinct starting layers. Ectoderm is the outside. Endoderm is the inner, and mesoderm, the middle layer. Ecto, outside, endo, inside, meso, middle. Each of these, in turn, will develop into different parts of our embryo into the adult. So, with more different cells to start with in terms of recognizably different in their places, we build more different things, leading to different organs. Ectoderm, no surprise, makes the skin, and also nervous system sense organs. Those derive from the ectoderm. Endoderm, well, that hole in the middle, that's the digestive system, so no surprise. Basically, the digestive system is endoderm. Also, you've got some things that kind of branch off from it in development. So, stuff like the liver, pancreas, the lungs, well, yeah, they're attached onto the digestive system, so that makes sense there. Mesoderm fills in the stuff in between. So, in vertebrates, the skeleton, the muscles are primarily from mesoderm. Much of our connective tissues, the circulation, reproductive excretion. Now, again, that's the pattern in vertebrates such as ourselves. Mollusks, their shells on the outside, so it's the ectoderm that is actually producing the shell. Different ones have some differences there. In many vertebrates, we have special membranes associated with the embryo. These are typical of the amniotes, the reptiles, birds, and mammals. And thanks to having these additional membranes, these play a key role in allowing the eggs to survive on land out of water. Again, if you're in the water, well, you don't have to worry about getting thirsty. You're not going to dry out in the water. But up on land, drying out's a problem. Also, being dry, this limits what you can do for gas exchange, and you need to have a moist surface for gas exchange. So that's going to be a problem. Waste. If you're in the water, you can just leak ammonia all the time. Doesn't work on land. So there are a lot of challenges for having that egg be able to survive on land instead of being in the water. These different ones, the chorion is the outermost membrane, and it allows gas exchange. Lets oxygen come in, carbon dioxide get out, while still providing protection. The amnion, where the amniote name comes from, is the membrane more closely around the embryo, providing more immediate protection and, again, further regulation of what's going out in the end. The allantois is a membrane that develops from the digestive tract of the embryo. In reptiles, birds, and monitoring mammals, platypus echidna, It's a space where the nitrogenous waste can be stored. And that's a major thing the kidneys are getting rid of. The mostly urea or uric acid. And that's waste, get it out of the body, but, well, you're in the egg, so it has to stick it somewhere. And so the allantois allows that. In the placental mammals, it forms a key part of developing the placenta, the membrane between the mother and the baby's systems, allowing nutrients from the mother's blood and other materials, the oxygen, even some antibodies, things like that, to be transferred over to the developing young. And then we have a yolk sac, as the name indicates. Obviously, this is holding yolk, nutrients that supply the developing young. Again, birds and most reptiles, that's where all the food is coming from. In placental mammals and certain reptiles, actually, you do have a connection where nutrients can get to the young in addition to what was supplied as yolk with it. Embryo is affected by a variety of things as well. Especially early on, you've got some major things going on to go from one cell to all the key parts of the adult animal. And so early development, in the case of mammals, prenatal, inside mother before birth, this is going to be very sensitive to any sort of disruption, endocrine disrupting chemicals, other things like that, potentially diseases, any sort of gases, nutrients, drugs there. There are a number of types of medicine, for example, where it's perfectly safe for you to take it, but it can cause significant harm to a developing baby. So there's a lot of caution that's necessary. A pregnant woman needs to be especially careful about what types of chemicals she's exposed to, even some food things and other factors. For example, there's a common parasite, a protist, that doesn't do particular harm to adults. Well, there's some, but it's kind of indirect, but can cause the death of a developing young. So being careful. The parasite is especially associated with cats, so being careful around cats not to get infected by this parasite is an issue. Actually, what's going on in adults, the main obvious symptom of being affected by this parasite, and it can affect all sorts of mammals, is that it tends to make the individual more bold and tending to say go out and explore things instead of staying in a safe place, stuff like that. Okay, why would a parasite want that? Well, the adult stage of the parasite occurs in cats. If a mouse is more bold, it's got a better chance of ending up inside a cat. Okay, well, what about things that aren't mice? Well, if you have a more bold human, about 10,000 years ago, it would have had rather more chance of ending up inside a cat, except the cat would be, say, a lion or saber-tooth or something like that. So the parasite actually has that effect, but again, if a pregnant female gets infected by this parasite, toxoplasma, then that can be harmful to the baby. There are a variety of specific chemicals that tend to cause malformation if a developing embryo is exposed to them. These are known as teratogens. Often they can also cause cancer, but here we're focused on the effect on development. No surprise, things like various drugs, smoking, alcohol, these have a number of negative impacts on developing young. Less healthy, more vulnerable. Now, of course, in development, different things are developing at different times. The exact timing, different body parts will be more vulnerable at different points in this process. In humans, the first 3 months of development are especially critical. You're getting basically all the major parts started in this time frame. And so there's a lot of vulnerability to the embryo in this time range. But this also means that early on in pregnancy, you may not realize it and take precautions. So there are some health recommendations that any female with any chance of becoming pregnant, not just ones who know they are, to be careful about these things. There's certain nutrients like getting appropriate amounts of vitamins, being careful about harmful chemicals, all this sort of thing. Of course, after birth, you don't stop changing. We go through growth, and then as mammals, we reach a certain size and stop our growing in height, but we continue to change in various ways. And so this whole process of aging is a component of development as well. Different body systems have their own patterns of change and eventually decline. Biological systems do run down eventually. We do end up with death as well. This is influenced both by environment and genes. One key gene has been found to affect many animals. And if you turn that gene down, it can greatly increase the lifespan of many types of animals. But there are trade-offs. Similarly, certain mammals, if they get extreme caloric restriction, a very strict diet, this tends to delay aging. Probably this is turning on stress-related genes that slow processes down and lead to longer lifespan. Of course, do you want to live longer if you can't get any ice cream? There are potentially trade-offs there. Also, how well this would work in humans. And of course, if you restrict your diet too much, you starve. That's not good for you. So, finding the actual balance there is a challenge.